Oh, Hare Krishna. Sorry, a little late today, but better late than never, as they say. so, so let's begin. Um, Today we're going to study the Bhagavatam 1, 729, Canto 1, Chapter 7, Text 29. We'll begin there. And thank you for joining me and us. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, sorry. Sutu Vacha Shutva Bhagavata Proktam Falguna Paraviraha Spristvapastang Parikramya Brahmang Brahmastrang Sandade. So, Prabhupada's translation, Sri Sutta-Goswami said, hearing this from the personality of Godhead, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after circumambulating Lord Sri Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one. So I'll just briefly look at the Sanskrit here. Oh my God. Sutu Vacha, Sutta said, Shutva Bhagavata Proktang, having heard what the Lord said. And it's not just Uktam, which would be said, it's actually Proktam, which means sort of declared. It's a little stronger than just Uktam. That hearing what the Lord had said, 1 second just to make sure people don't call me. So, Shutva Bhagavata Proktam, hearing what the Lord had stated, Falguna, Arjuna, Paraviraha, the slayer of the enemy heroes, or opposing warriors, Prabhupada says. Para is an interesting word in Sanskrit. Para, in the simplest sense, can mean the other. Like, for example, you find in the Bhagavatam... Oh. I'm actually in the middle of a class. I'll call you back. Thought that was the easiest thing rather than let it ring. So, Falguna Paraviraha. Para means the other, so it can mean like one's own and the other. Swapada. Swapada Deheshu. For example, the Lord is in our own body and in the bodies of others. I think that's in the Gita. So, Pada can be the opposite of Swa, or Atma, like one's own and then the other. But because it means the other, it can also mean the enemy, like the one who's not with you, he's against you. Or it can also mean transcendental, because not this world, the other world, or that which is not part of the material world. We are in the material, we are souls at the present time doing business as bodies or in the material dimension, but that other dimension, which is beyond, which is outside of this material realm, is transcendental or beyond. And so para in Sanskrit has all those meanings, like paraloka, or another form of the word para is, of course, parama, as in paramatma, or paraloka, the world beyond. And here it just means the enemy or the opposing person. Pada Vira. Vira, of course, is warrior or hero. Pada Vira Ha, the killer of opposing warriors. And then Sprishtva, having touched, Apas, water. Again, Achman, because it's not simply a ritual. That's what's interesting here. Arjuna didn't have a lot of time. He was under serious time constraints because this nuclear cloud was coming at him. And therefore, he did not touch water just because it was a ritual. He touched water because that was actually an integral part of launching a weapon. Touching water, quickly purifying the body and so the fact that there's a relationship between purity of the body and power to, in this case, launch a weapon, or it could be the power to perform a Vedic sacrifice, or it could be the power to worship deities, where of course you have to do Achman, you have to touch water. And so, because cleanliness, Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita as the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, consciousness becomes clear, and unless someone's in clear consciousness, they can't really perform these things properly, because in launching these weapons, one has to be fully concentrated. It's even said earlier that before Ashwathama launched his weapon, he also did this. He also did Achman, and he also focused himself. And so touching water is a practical element of the process. It's not just a ritual. Sprishtva apas means water. So sprishtva apas, having touched water, tang parikramya. And he circumambulated Krishna. So it's very interesting. He's touching water. Here, this nuclear cloud, which is the way I would describe it, it's moving at the speed of a cloud. So it's this cloud of nuclear fire. It's like a cloud of fire, which is almost a biblical image from the New Testament. What do they call that? Revelations. So, and then he circumambulates Krishna. Why is he taking the time to do these things? Because in a sense, he's getting into a certain consciousness, which is essential to release the weapon. Of course, we can assume that Ashwathama did not circumambulate even a little deity of Krishna before throwing his weapon. So why is Arjuna doing it? Arjuna is going to throw a superior weapon. Arjuna is going to counteract the other one. And so in that sense, it's more powerful. And he is deriving power from Krishna, not in a selfish way, but as a pure devotee of Krishna. And so our worship of Krishna is empowering. We become empowered by the sincerity of our worship of Krishna. So Brahmastram sandadhe. Literally, so it's understood he released the weapon. Brahman is the same thing. It means, anyway, I won't go into all the grammar, but it means the Brahmastra. And so sandadhe, sun means together, as in Sankirtan, and the day means he put or he placed. So he joined the two Brahmastra weapons, because Arjuna could throw his, Ashwathama threw his weapon, Arjuna could just throw another weapon, and then you just have two Brahmastras floating around. That's not what happened. Arjuna was so skilled that he actually threw his Brahmastra right into the other one, and they merged. Now, once the two Brahmastras merged, Arjuna then had power over them. Unlike Ashwathama, Arjuna knew how to retract, how to withdraw the weapon. And so the way he's going to withdraw Ashwathama's weapon, the way he's going to destroy it, is he's going to fuse, another nuclear term, he's going to fuse his Brahmastra into Ashwathama, so they're inseparable, and so whatever Arjuna does to his weapon will happen to the other one too, because they're joined, sandadhe. And so he fuses them, and then he's going to pull them both back. So brilliant military technique here. Have to really admire it. So, Sanghatyanyonyam ubhayos tejasi shadasambrate avritya rodasi kancha babradhater kavanivat. So this is quite a spectacular event. So, Sanghatya anyonyam ubhayos tejasi shadasambrate. So Sanghatya means when they struck each other. Sanghatya can mean joining, but in the sense of striking each other, like it's sort of a somewhat violent coming together, Sanghatya. Because Hatya by itself means to strike, so striking each other, combining. Prabhupada says by combination of, but it has that special sense of striking each other and combining. Sanghatya anyonyam, each other. Anyonyam means each other. Anya literally means another or other. So anya, anyam means like one to another. So each other. Sanghatyanyonyam ubhayas, of both. Then, so they mutually, they're coming, rushing together. And then ubhayos, of both. Tejasi, which is a dual word. Tejas means splendor. And Tejasi is the dual. It means the two splendors or the two glares or these two fiery glows. Shada Sambrate, which are both sort of enveloped in these weapons in each other. Abritya, covering road to sea. Road to sea means kind of like heaven and earth. Anyway, won't go into the grammar, but it means like heaven and earth. So heaven and earth are just covered by these two nuclear glows, or it's not just a glow, it's this blaze, by these two nuclear blazes. Kang Cha, and all of space. So heaven, earth, space, it's just, wow, imagine seeing this. And then Babridhate Arkavaniva, and it began growing. So when they first come together, it's not that they rush together, you get this like astronomical, literally astronomical blaze that's covering heaven and earth and space. That's bad enough, but they were growing. Babridhate, again, it's a dual verb. The two were growing. So it always gets worse before it gets better, right? So at first it's glowing, and arkavanivat, like sun fires, like the fire of the sun. So because of course here on earth we have sunshine, which often can be pleasant. This is not sunshine, this is sun fire. This is sun fire, arkavani. And so imagine the fire on the sun, on the surface of the sun, or that's not pleasant sunshine. There's no known suntan lotion that would protect you on the surface of the earth. It's not like, okay, just put an extra layer of suntan lotion. So this is like the sun fire, the actual fire of the sun. It was growing like that. Both weapons were growing. So it's not over yet, because both weapons are actually growing. So Drishtwastra Tejas tu Tayos, Trilokan, Pradahan Mahat, Dayamana Praja Sarva, Samvartakam Amangsata. So seeing, Drishtwa, Astra Tejas, seeing the weapon fire, the missile fire. Astra really means, like I said, from the verb as, to hurl, so it's like, it means missile in Sanskrit. So seeing the missile fire, indeed, of both these weapons, Trilokan Pradahan Mahat, this great fire that was burning up the three worlds, Dayamana Praja Sarva, and all creatures were being burned by it. This is a very serious incident. Praja Sarva means all creatures, Dayamana, being burned in that fire. Samvartakam Amangsata. So all the creatures that saw it thought that it must be Samvartakam, like the annihilation, like the worlds are being destroyed now. That's how heavy it was. People thought it's the time of annihilation. The worlds are going to be destroyed. Prajopadravam alaksha loka vyati karang chatam matang cha vasudevasya sangjahar Arjuna dvayam. So why did Arjuna wait? He's now going to withdraw. Why did he wait? Because logically you could say that Arjuna needs to make sure that the two weapons are really completely locked in together. Because if Arjuna withdrew his weapon too early, too soon, the other weapon would not be withdrawn. The other Brahmastra would still continue, or at least part of it. For example, I mean, it's a visual thing. Imagine if Arjuna's weapon had only partially merged or partially locked onto Ashwathama's weapon, and then Arjuna withdrew it, he could pull off a piece of Ashwathama's weapon, or maybe they would just unlock again. So Arjuna's waiting. He's waiting until the weapons are completely inseparable. The two weapons are completely merged. They're in a sense becoming like one nuclear blaze. And once they are inseparable, then he can actually withdraw both of them. So this is, if you read the Sanskrit closely, think about it, you can understand what's actually going on here. So, recognizing, alaksha is something like recognizing. Praja upadravam, the danger to all creatures. Praja upadravam, prajopadravam alaksha, loka bhyati karang chatam, and the destruction of the world. Matangcha vasudevasya, and recognizing the wish of Vasudeva. Matam, from the Sanskrit verb man, to think. So the thought, like, okay, what's Krishna thinking? What does Krishna want? Matangcha vasudevasya sangjahar Arjuna dvayam. So finally, Arjuna sangjahara, he withdrew dvayam, the two weapons. Dvaya, like in English we have duality, so dvaya means the two. Arjuna withdrew both weapons. So, happy ending here. And then let's see if we can get the next verse. There it is. Tata asadya tarasa. Then, tataha, at that point, asadya, approaching, tarasa, quickly approaching, darunam, the very dangerous and the malicious, really, Gautami sutam, the dangerous and sort of wicked-minded son of Gautami, the son, that's his mother's name, Gautami, of Kripi. Babanda, he tied him up. Babanda means like he bound him. The English word bind, bound, Sanskrit babanda, same word. He bound him, he arrested him, he tied him up. Amarsha tamraksha, and his eyes are sort of red with rage. That's the idea. His eyes are red with rage. Amarsha tamraksha. Pashun rasanayajata, he tied him up with ropes like an animal. So no more, you're my guru's son. Arjuna treats him like an animal and just ties him up the way you tie up an animal. So Arjuna is really, really angry. So Shiviraya Ninishantam. So wanting to take him back to their camp, their military camp. Shibira is their military camp. And Ninishantam, so Arjuna is wanting to take him back to the military camp. Rajwa Badwa Ripung Balat, having tied him up, roped him and tied him up. The enemy, he's now referred to as an enemy, by force, just tying him up. Praharjunam prakupito. Krishna is now, Krishna's very angry, and Praha, he said to Arjuna, Praharjunam prakupito bhagavanam bhujekshana, the Lord Krishna who has lotus eyes. And of course Prabhupada points out that Arjuna's eyes are furious, Krishna's lotus eyed, so he's showing anger, but he's still he's the detached, transcendental, supreme Lord. So he's actually lotus eyed. Prabhupada says both Arjuna and Lord Sri Krishna are described here in an angry mood, but Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus he is absolute in any stage. His anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotee, because that is his transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. That's a brilliant purport. So Arjuna, Krishna says to Arjuna, maybe we'll end here for today. Mainam partarhasi tratum, which means Partha Arjuna, you should not release him. In other words, spare him, actually, in English, that would be the right word here. Mainam partarhasi tratum, you should not spare him. In other words, kill him. Brahmabandhum imangjahi, kill this so-called Brahmana. Again, Brahmabandhu means literally a friend of a Brahman, but that's kind of how in Sanskrit, that's how you say so-called, as we would say in English. Mainam paratarhasi tratum, Arjuna, you should not spare him. Kill this so-called Brahman. Josa vanaga saksuptan avadhin shivalakan. He who, Ashwathama, he who killed at night the sinless sleeping boys. Yosav Nagasak Suptan. Suptan means sleeping, and Nagasak, which means inoffensive. They weren't fighting, they were just sleeping, which back in that Vedic culture, that was just, it was unthinkable. It was an unthinkable atrocity to kill your enemy while they're sleeping. It violated everything in the Kshatriya code. It was at night, in the dark, they were sleeping, so it was an unthinkable, unprecedented atrocity. Josavanaga Saksuptan Avadini Shivalakan. So Arjuna, Krishna here tells Arjuna, why are you tying him up? Just kill him. Interesting. So we'll find out what happens next week, hopefully. And there are some questions I'll take a look at. Let's see. One question, does this nuclear event align with any mass extinctions on the earth? No, because ultimately it was not a nuclear event. It was almost, in other words, it's like the missile was launched, but it never landed. Arjuna was able, sort of like Arjuna was able to counteract the missile. So that's a very interesting question. Now, one thing about the dinosaurs actually, according to science, lived on the earth about 60 million years before these events took place. Devotees always ask, because that's one example of where the scientists say, okay, there were dinosaurs, and but why aren't they mentioned in our literature, sacred literature? Well, according to what I just looked up, dinosaurs became extinct 66 million years ago. And the Bhagavatam is talking about events 5,000 years ago. And even if you think of yuga cycles, so according to science, the dinosaurs became extinct tens of millions of years before the events described in the Bhagavatam. And so you could say, well, for example, the Bhagavatam, Mahabharata, they describe the creation, previous ages. But again, that just becomes linguistic, because there are words describing that in the Shastra, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, other Puranas, describing the creation of different species. And to some extent, we are guessing or assuming what those words mean today. There are descriptions of creatures, and we don't really understand what the creatures were We don't really have pictures of them. And so is it possible that, let's say in describing how Brahma created the universe or how he created the earth, that some of the Sanskrit words that we do not fully understand today actually refer to dinosaurs? Is that possible? Yes, it is possible. There's no obvious reason why it's impossible. But dinosaurs did become extinct, according to the science we have today, 66 million years ago. Okay, so thank you very much. Not a long class today, but hope it wasn't too bad. And hope we'll see you. I won't see you next week, but I hope you'll see me next week. I hope we can all do this again next week. Hare Krishna.